Work is the worst place to fall in love with someone you can't have, or rather, someone who it is wrong for you to pursue a relationship with. It can ruin your happiness, it can ruin their happiness, it will definitely ruin your spouse's happiness, and it can cause you to lose your job. And one thing that can make this all much worse is if you're prone to limerence, meaning you get romantically obsessed with people at the level of like a strong addiction, even when, or especially when, they are off limits to you. And this is common for people who grew up abused and neglected. My letter today is from a man I'll call Scott, who is on the very brink of ruining everything in his life. And he writes, "Dear Anna, I'm writing you about a struggle I've been dealing with for a while, limerence. Even after 6 months of no contact with the person involved, my feelings still persist and I'm unsure of how to move forward with my recovery. All right, I've got my fairy pencil here. I'm circling things I want to come back to on a second reading, but let's see what's going on in Scott's life. He says, I'm a man in my early 40s, happily married, with no children. Both of my parents were survivors of childhood trauma, including physical, sexual, emotional abuse, and drug addiction. Growing up, I experienced the effects of their struggles with mental illness and emotional difficulties. My mother, in particular, was highly critical and pessimistic during my childhood, and their divorce when I was 13 marked a chaotic period in my life. I never experienced physical or sexual abuse myself, so I never considered that I might be dealing with PTSD until I learned about limerence and its possible connections to past trauma. I realized that I've been struggling with the issue since at least my teenage years, including during my marriage, and it's only gotten worse over time. I've been married for over 10 years, and for the last 7 years, my wife has suffered from a serious, debilitating health condition. That has limited her ability to function. She went from being extremely social and an overachieving workaholic to having to avoid social interactions and has been on disability leave from her job. Despite her struggles, our marriage is strong and supportive, but it's been a challenging time for both of us. 2 years ago, a young woman started working at my company, and we quickly became close friends. She's much younger than I am, and while she's in a long-distance relationship with a boyfriend overseas, we formed a friendship that grew over time with flirtatious messages, regular hangouts, and holidays with a mutual friend. I kept my feelings of limerence toward her secret, but I became deeply consumed by them. My wife knew about our friendship and encouraged me to spend time with her, trusting me completely. One day after work, she invited me out for a drink alone with her. She told me about a friend who was also in a long-distance relationship and who had come to a friends with benefits arrangement with a male friend who himself was in a relationship on the understanding that they would both remain committed to their respective partners. She asked what I thought about this and whether I would ever consider such an arrangement. I immediately said that I thought it was a bad idea. I had no wish to take our, quote, friendship any further, and I assumed that our friendship and my secret limerence would continue the way it was indefinitely. Shortly after, I noticed her affection toward me was fading, and the frequency and intimacy of her messages started reducing. To my horror, I saw that she was flirting more and more with a mutual male friend of ours. I'd always felt that I was her favorite. But quickly she started paying more and more attention to this other man. She started declining my invitations to hang out. One day, I noticed an innocent white lie during one of our conversations. She had been together with our mutual friend after saying she wasn't available to see me, and she felt the need to lie to me about it. I was utterly crushed, but I pretended not to mind. I mean, what business of mine was it? I started noticing that they would coordinate sick days from work. I became convinced that they were having an affair. I imagined that she had offered him the same friends with benefits agreement that she had suggested to me, and that he had taken her up on the offer. The fact that I thought he was her second choice only intensified the secret feelings of jealousy and betrayal. To my utter shame, I immediately switched from viewing the man as a good friend to feeling such intense hatred that I could barely stand to be in the same room as him. Simultaneously, I could see that he had done absolutely nothing wrong to upset me and that his relationships were none of my business whatsoever. Over time, she stopped responding to my messages, and I decided to go no contact 6 months ago. Since then, I've been left grappling with the intense emotions that continue to haunt me. What's troubling is the self-loathing that I'm dealing with. I keep revisiting the friends with benefits conversation, wondering what might have been. I resent myself for turning it down, and yet I feel deep guilt for even considering it in the first place. The spiral of self-hate is exhausting, and I can't seem to find peace with the situation. I feel stuck between knowing that this might seem like a trivial issue, just a crush gone wrong, but the emotional pain is so overwhelming that it feels like the worst thing I've ever experienced. Since the zero contact period began, I've struggled to understand my motivation to do anything. Without the limerent object to focus on, limerent object, everybody, is like limerence jargon for the person you have this obsession for, a limerent object. So without the limerent object to focus on, I feel aimless. I've been reading about limerence and PTSD, and I'm trying to understand the roots of my emotions and how I can recover from this pattern. I know that part of my struggle is tied to unresolved trauma and emotional needs from my childhood. I'm unsure how to move forward and heal. I would greatly appreciate your thoughts on this. It's hard to know how to take the next step toward recovery, and I'm hoping you can help shed some light on how I can finally let go of these feelings and find peace. And that is from Scott. All right, thank you, Scott. I'm really sorry you're going through this. So I'll go through and I'll respond to what you told me about this situation because, I think like most people, you have the ability to find your own answer here. So let me just echo back what you said. And I'll comment on it, of course. So you've already had no contact for 6 months with this woman, and you still have strong feelings, and you don't know how to move forward. You're in your 40s, you're happily married with no children. So one thing that I notice about your life story is that your wife has been kind of incapacitated for 7 years and can't leave the house. And I think you said she can't have people over. Is that right? She has to avoid social interactions, and she's been on disability leave. So that's a lot. Scott, that is a lot. And it's really commendable that you two love each other and stand by each other. But this is often when limerence crops up. I mean, I'm just going to project here. If it were me, you're missing out on a lot of stuff that a couple your age, if both of you were able-bodied, would be enjoying, maybe taking trips or having dinner parties or going and taking hikes somewhere, just things that people like to do. So you can't do any of that. So whatever is going on for you in the outside world, you have to do by yourself. And I think that's a huge vulnerability to getting obsessed on somebody, limerently. And that's almost always the background. Life just isn't as fun as it needs to be for you. So happily, even your wife seems to be very supportive of you having friendships and fun, and you still can do it. And you can have fun with your wife. But you know what? We have to have fun. And I'm not like a trivial person who's like, babes, life just has to be fun. It doesn't just have to be fun. I mean, it has to be meaningful. But part of meaningful life is we have joyful times. We get time to relax. We have the opportunity to appreciate beauty and seasons and new places where we've never been. That is part of having a full life. So 7 years is a very long time not to have that, and I can't imagine that you have 100% peace about that, and that the anxiety about it and what you're missing, doesn't it play a role in kind of propelling you into fantasizing about somebody else? Now, granted, that could happen to anybody, right? We all know that. Most of us here have done it before. 2 years ago, this young woman started working at your company, and you became close friends. So it's not crazy for, in this case, a straight man and a straight woman to be close friends. It's not insane, but it's a little bit risky, okay? It just is. So she's much younger, and while she's in a long-distance relationship with a boyfriend overseas, we formed a friendship that grew over time with flirtatious messages, okay, right there, regular hangouts and holidays with a mutual friend. And by holidays, I guess you mean trips, taking a trip with a mutual friend. It sounds like you were able to compartmentalize your feelings for her, which you surely noticed you had pretty early in the process. and pretend to be just a friend and do all these things and text and take trips together that, would be tempting for anybody if they felt attracted. So right there, I'm not criticizing you because I know you know this, but I want to say it. Like, this is where we get into trouble. Really, when people are married, and she has this long distance relationship that I will assume is a serious relationship that she chooses to stay committed to. But let's just look at this. Okay. So it's a serious relationship. She will remain committed, but she's going to she wants to have a secret affair. So if you were to have gotten involved with her, you would have been participating in her lie as well as your own lie. And I just want to emphasize to you what a bullet you dodged by not doing that. I know it's really painful, and I know there's this huge emotional attachment to what might have been, but what might have been would surely have been misery for both of you. So as bad as this is, that would be another kind of bad. And so, good job refraining. Really, you did a good job. And I think many people in your shoes wouldn't be that strong. But if a relationship has to be lied about and hidden, it's not wholesome. It's just not. So it would have to be it's a whole different situation. You're married to somebody who is counting on you and where there's a mutually agreed upon fidelity to each other. So yeah, good job not going there. But yeah, so there was all this flirting, and then not only were you guys sort of hiding what you were doing from other people, which you had to have because it's not appropriate at work, but you were hiding your feelings about her toward her. But somehow she picked it up because she propositioned you like this. So your wife was supportive, innocent wife. And the day after work, she the woman at work invited you out for a drink alone with her. All right. So this is a rule of thumb for people who don't want to get into complicated relationships at work. And I really don't recommend it, especially at work. Is just don't go out for a drink alone with people where there's that sort of feeling about it. I totally understand it. It's like we want to just see, can I just sort of court disaster, but not actually leap into disaster? Can I just go right towards the edge of the cliff of terrible things that can happen and see if I could just extract the joy and excitement of this, attraction. That's the idea, right? It feels innocent. It feels like a good idea. But actually, it's pretty far down the line. It's pretty far down the line. So she had a talk with you. She phrased it as a friend who was in a long distance relationship who had come to be, who was having a friends with benefits arrangement with a male friend who himself was in a relationship. So in other words, just sex. And if you had limerence for her, somehow I think even in terms of your own emotions, having this kind of hollow relationship with her that she was trying to set up, it's not like it would have fulfilled you. It wouldn't have given you that feeling of love. That's what limerence is. It's like that, the instinct to fall in love and bond with somebody is just sort of going in the wrong direction. The way she so easily skipped over to your friend at work, no less, right in front of you, she sounds, frankly, self-centered to me. And maybe not so emotionally invested in this. She wants a little thing, and she's lying to somebody about it, and she's willing to harm the spouse of the person with whom she's having the fling. That takes a lot of numbness. It takes a lot of moral numbness to go through with it. And if it's not numbness, it's cruelty. It's just cruel. So I don't like what she's doing. I don't like that she just skipped over to somebody else, like she just had to have a body there for it, and that it was your friend. I think that's really thoughtless. If it's love, there's some sayings around that, the heart can't, I don't know, we can't always control who we fall in love with. It can't always be controlled. And I understand that. I've lived it before, but I don't think that's what was motivating her with the friend, was love. It just sounds like it was, she just wanted what she wanted. And love is a verb. It's something that you give to another person, and making their whole life go upside down and jeopardizing their career. It's not love. So I do understand how these things can happen. And life is hard, and life is confusing. And occasionally these things do work out. I understand that. But there's just a whole bunch of reckless behavior here that's not really taking into consideration what's best for everybody. So you said no. You didn't admit that you had those feelings for her, but you said you didn't want to take your friendship further. And you know what? I admire you for that. It's better that she didn't know how you felt, honestly, because it's not what you wanted. And when you're open about that kind of thing and it's not what you want, it can just inflame everything. You thought that you could just go on forever, being limerent about her. And that's what limerence likes. Limerence doesn't like to disclose itself because then the real world hits it, either rejection or the banality of what relationships are actually like. They have many dull moments. They can be disappointing often. And so limerence just wants to have this kind of like magical land up here where we can go visit and get away from it all. And so we have to carefully guard that magical land, that bubble of non-reality, by not letting it touch reality, not disclosing it. If you've ever noticed when you're limerent, if you start talking to your friends about it, a little too enthusiastically about the person, it turns them off and you start to detect it. And you learn, like, don't tell anybody this is weird. And it's weird. And the very fact that we're ever hiding what's truly going on in our lives it's the red flag. It's the red flag that we're going off the rails and we're stepping into something unhappy. As soon as you said you wouldn't go there with her, her affection went away. She very quickly just started getting into your friend. And then they started having a relationship right in front of you. And that thing you said about coordinated sick days, that hurt me in the heart. So then you noticed there was a white lie during a conversation with her where she was covering up that she'd been with him. So here's what you know about somebody who will have secret affairs is they are capable of lying, including ourselves when we're engaged in it. So the whole thing needs to be cleared up. Like if you really want a happy life, these lies have to go. We can't do things that have to be lied about. And if we have to lie about it, we need to not be doing it. If we have to lie about loving somebody, we may not be able to instantly control our feelings about that, but there are actions we can take to stop feeding and fanning the flames of that passion for them, that fantasy of them. Because when you can't be with somebody and all your thought energy and all this emotional energy is going into this scenario that cannot be, guess what you're doing? You're taking your whole life force, all the love you have to give, these precious moments on earth, and you're basically dumping them into a toxic waste pit. They can't serve you there. They're going nowhere. But it's how we escape. And if it's a short-term escape, well, okay. But when we're going on and on and on with it, it's an addiction at that point. And just like any addiction, it's taking you out. It's taking you out of your personal development. It's taking you out of connection to the real world and to the people in it who you care about. And the worst thing that could happen would be to die limerent, because you would just be in this isolated little bubble where maybe you still have a spouse, but secretly in your mind, you're always like, but she's not the person I really want to be with. Oh, and that's a terrible thing. That's just like a terrible thing to have and create. Especially, I don't know, I just suspect from this woman's behavior, it never would have worked out. This guy was your close friend and you're embarrassed, you're ashamed that you hate him so much. And I think you're very mature there, just recognizing like he's just doing his thing. But does he know? Does he know about you? I actually do count that as a transgression if he knows it's who you love. And probably she's told him, right? And he does it anyway. So no, it's true. Nobody owes each other anything in this arrangement. Over time, she stopped responding to you. So it sounds like you got a little bit like trying to hold on to the whole thing. So word of advice, if you're obsessed with somebody or limerent on them, if you are secretly in love with them and you're trying to pretend you're just a friend, don't do it. Cut contact. You want my advice. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of things at the end of this video to detect the signs that this is happening and what you do. But in a nutshell, if you really want this pain to stop, you got to cut contact. And the sad thing about when it happens at work is that so long as you're seeing them every day, and I guess you're going to see them having this relationship right in front of you, that you can see exactly what's going on and there's no hiding from it. I would recommend to you that it's time to start looking for a new job. And it's sad but true. Like, you didn't ask for this to happen, it just happened. But here you are, miserable. And I think if it's gone on for 6 months, it starts to seem like a serious possibility that it'll go on much longer than that. And it'll be this huge drain on your life force and your emotional availability. Now, the thing is, you want to be with your wife. And for that marriage to be happy, you can't be giving away. People focus so much on the transgression being sex. That's the thing. And that is a transgression outside of marriage, outside of a monogamous marriage, certainly. But there's this other thing you're giving away that's not yours to give away. It belongs to her. And it's kind of your delight in the day. It's your companionship. It's your really paying attention, having the little jokes together, eating meals together, being really there with her and having that intimacy with her. Like, if we are honest with ourselves, if we're pining away for somebody else, we're only going through the motions at home. They're not getting their deal. And so, I use very strict definitions of some of the errors that we make. And so what I believe selfishness is when we withhold from somebody something that is rightfully theirs. And because you are married to her, you're her spouse, what is rightfully hers is your attention and care, and not the diluted version of it, not the 30% that's left after you gave the good stuff to somebody at work. And that's the thing about emotional affairs, as well as the full affair. Emotional affairs are robbing the person who received a commitment to, be present for them. And certainly for honesty, not lying. So anyway, I don't want this to be perceived as I'm trying to hammer you with guilt. I know you already feel bad about it, but I'm going to reflect back to you what I think the moral hardship is for you and why the right thing to do is to cut contact. And I know you did. You went no contact with her, but you still have to see them. And so no contact means you don't see them. And this is for your own sake. This is so you're not constantly triggered with something that's basically an addictive thought pattern, right? That's holding you back. It's keeping you apart from your wife, and it's using up a whole bunch of your creative energy. And it's just a tragedy to have. And it's so great. Like when limerence ends, it's just like, yahoo! You get your life back. It's so much more fun. What I remember when I was feeling limerent was I could be doing something so fun. I could be like out with a bunch of girlfriends, swimming in the ocean, but sitting there all the time, feeling like disappointed, like, well, this isn't as fun as if he were here. What a shame that is. So it's basically like donating your allotment of joy in this life to outer space. You're just not going to have it. It's common for traumatized people. The attachment pattern just kind of goes forward, even though the place for it to land isn't there. It's from talking to so many people who have it, I just kind of see the pattern. I can sense it so well. So yeah, you just haven't had peace, and you keep going back to that moment. What would it have been like if you had said, yes, sure, friends with benefits? And this is what I think it would have been like. You would have had sex. It would have been really exciting at first. And then it would have been complicated, and she was never going to be with you. So if you loved her, it was going to be disappointed. And if you didn't love her, it was going to be like such a price to pay. And you would never again be able to get back that feeling that you were true to your wife, that way that she trusts you entirely. You would always feel bad looking in her eyes about that. So it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. I saw this movie. I hadn't heard of it before, but then I saw it recently just online streaming, when I was relaxing. And it's called Take This Waltz. And it's about a woman in that situation where she's just like, I don't know, wouldn't it be more exciting with somebody else? And I won't give it away, but I recommend it. It's kind of I don't think it's a high budget movie, but it's a sweet movie about what that's like. And I thought it captured it really well. So what's troubling, you say, is the self-loathing that you're dealing with. And I'm sorry. Yeah, it's not trivial. It's, your capacity to love with that passion is like, that's your life force. That's your beautiful contribution to the, ever unfolding life of the universe. Every human being, that's what that romantic energy is. Romantic and sexual energy is you're playing your role in the, in the unfolding, the river of life. So it's a very sacred energy. It's just going in the wrong place. And I know for some people that's not going to result in children, but it's still sacred. And you have saved it. You're feeling sad right now, and it's been 6 months. So yes, it can take a long time. But this is what I believe are the fastest routes to getting over. It's kind of an addictive obsession. Is stop all contact. And you can tell yourself, maybe one day there can be contact, we'll see how it goes, maybe in 10 years or something. but it has to stop, or you're going to be triggered and triggered and triggered. And it's just really hard to get over any addiction when it's always right in front of you. And then you need tools to process the feelings that come up, because as I'm sure you have intuited, yeah, it is related to trauma. I think it's possible for non-traumatized people to get limerent, but it's a lot more likely for people, especially if they were emotionally neglected. I see it a lot in people who had alcoholic parents, for example, where, you know, we just end up with this like magical capacity to see love when it's not really there, or we see potential when the potential's not there. We crap fit. We use magical thinking. Crap fit is when you fit yourself to an unacceptable situation. Because you just get so good at that as a kid, right? You just have to. You have no choice, but you do have a choice now. And the good things that you have in your life, you know, a career, a wife who loves you, all of those are on the line right now for this person who very easily just threw you over for your friend. So, yeah, the further away you can get, and then use tools to surface and face and release all those feelings, you know, that are under there about the love you never got. And so when people say something like unprocessed trauma, or or you have to release trauma, it sounds like a lot of jargon to me. The only thing that it's not jargon. I mean, a lot of people use it, but to me, it's not practical enough. It's a analogy, it's a metaphor, you know, that it's trapped in you and then you have to release it or process it, or what does that even mean? But what it means is you need a system or a set of tools to start deactivating these thoughts and feelings that continue to grab your whole nervous system and just keep it like on overdrive. That's what's making the obsession hard to let go of. So people do that in a number of ways, sometimes several ways at the same time. One is very strong exercise. One is joy in your life. You need joy, you need fun, you need friends, good friends to spend time with, especially given that your wife has these limitations. You still need to take care of yourself and have people you can connect with in the outside world, and something to look forward to, and things that give you meaning. And that goes a long way towards helping. And then you need friends along the way who understand what you're going through. So not just any friend, but friends who are also working on healing their own trauma-driven patterns and relationships. That is golden for you. And you can, if you want, check out my dating course, or check out, we have a membership community where we have over 20 peer-led daily practice calls a day. We have a whole bunch of community opportunities for people who are working my method for calming your nervous system and then getting your life together, you know, solving life's problems. It's not therapy. This is different. This is a practical set of tools that you use every day, and a nice group of friends who totally get what you're doing and they're doing it too. That's what we do here, and you'd be most welcome in that. If you want to just see my take on what limerence is, what are the signs, and sort of just measure how progressed are you down the progress. Like progress sounds like it's forward, but this is just like going down into the pit. But how far down has it gone? How far has limerence gotten a hold of you? And then it includes some tips on how to get out of it. I have that. I've created a list. It's free. Anybody can download it right here. And I will see you very soon.